Empathy doesn't mean weak either. It's not giving yourself excuses. It's being able to hold the things that really come up and be able to love yourself through them as those things come up, but also have enough self-love to be radically honest with yourself about even the hard things. And just like you said, be able to say, hey, we fucking got this and we're going to do this, even though this is hard, even though this is scary, even though this brings up so much of your stuff of maybe not enough, unworthiness. So the empathy piece is I can hold all of that is coming up with so much love for myself of like, I know you feel this way. I know this is coming up and I love you so much and we're still going to fucking move.
Some of the hardest thing to do is it's just to face yourself. Most people would rather go into a state of avoidance. I don't want to deal with this right now, but this is you. So every time you say, I don't want to deal with this, it's still you, like you're involved with it. So I say better to go inward towards yourself. Stop running from yourself, run towards yourself.
What you and I care about are you living an authentic life? Are you living the life you want to live? Do you love the life that you live?
Yeah.
You said something one time and you're like, my life doesn't fit into my business. My business fits into my life and I love my life. And I was like, I love that. I love that so much because I think it's so often the reverse.
This is the Roxanne Show. Get ready. It's time to rise. Quick question. Are you playing it safe or are you playing it true? True to your authentic self? True to what you really desire for your life? True to your actual potential? This is no dress rehearsal, you guys. This is your life. You are here to live from your most extraordinary self, your whole self. And I'm so excited to share with you that my very first authored book, first of many to come, is finally coming out this year. The Truth in You Knows. This is more than a collection of essays, stories, and prose. It's a real manifesto that helps you shift what you believe is actually possible for you in your life. It's a lighthouse. It's an anchor. It's that sign that you craved right when you needed it most. This book will help you get into the most profound relationship with your most authentic self. This relationship that's forged from absolute self-love and trust, where you are going to bet on yourself, where you are going to live courageously so that you can experience the life that you really want to experience and nobody else's idea of what that needs to be or should be. I'm inviting you to join my book launch waitlist today so that you can access an exclusive live virtual workshop that I'm hosting to celebrate my book launch. This is going to be such a fun event. We're going to have an intimate conversation where I'm going to present the principles of the book. We're going to have a Q&A segment, and there's going to be other surprises at this event. I don't want you to miss this opportunity. In addition to that, being on this list is also going to give you access to other special bonuses that I'll be announcing closer to the book launch. To join this list, head over to roxannesaffaie.com/The Truth in You Knows and enter your information. And it's also on the homepage of my website, Roxanne Saffaie. I can't wait to spend this time with you. I cannot wait for you to have this book. Back to the episode.
All right. Cheers.
Cheers.
Matcha, turmeric,
Cacao or cocoa, butter, goodness.
What are we cheering to?
To
all
life,
the adventures and laughs.
to the manifestations.
Manifestations.
We have just
lots of manifestations. We've been manifesting so much.
Yeah.
Literally us sitting here right now
is a manifestation.
Unfolded. What did we manifest?
Where do we start? Goodness. I mean, first, let's just say, or I'll say this, but I know that this is similar to you, that this friendship is a manifestation for me because I literally at the top of the year was like, I've got a really core group of girls
I mean, sisters, teammates. And all of my friends really live, just most of them anyways, live at a distance, like even you and I, right? And each and every one is a badass, just contributing in their own unique way to life on a very big level. A lot of them are mommies and just a very full-on life. So what that means sometimes in terms of like getting together and having those social, that quality time together in real life, it just can make it a little bit trickier, And let me also say that as an entrepreneur and, I'm very drilled down like in my business and,
Yeah.
But at the top of the year, I was like, I really would love to be able to create more experiences with my girlfriends, like with girlfriends that I can really just drop in deep with and, just adventure and go, like create memories. Like life is about memories.
Yeah. Friendships when you're older, it's so different than when you were, or when I was younger, at least growing up. And I'm so grateful to be at a point where like I don't have a ton of friendships. I have a lot of relationships in my life. It's like when you're an entrepreneur and you have big dreams and ambitions, like a lot of that is so solo focused very often. And just like you said, it's hard, especially as your friends are all go-getters. They're all doing their own thing. And it's cool because the relationship I know that you and I have and the friends that we have, it's so understanding about all of those things. It's like, hey, I'll call you back here in an hour. And then 2 days go by.
Yeah, exactly.
And 2 days go by and it's like, hey, I'm calling you back. And it's like, oh yeah, not a problem. And no one's really bothered by it. And, it's so cool to be at a point in my own life to have such conscious friendships and to have a friend like you. It's also been a manifestation for me. And I have to tell everybody because, and I know you know this, but it was like, you inspired me before we even became friends. So like even looking back, the whole thing was a manifestation because I remember back to age 25 years old, a younger evolution of Rachel. And I'm just like stepping into speaking and podcasting. And I was about to go on Better Schoolian's podcast. And that was like, that's a big podcast. Yeah. And I'm like, who am I? I'm a nobody. So all of the imposter syndrome and things like that were coming up. But then, I turn on Women of Impact and there's this powerhouse of a woman who's speaking. And she says on that episode, she says, when you put yourself out there and you take up space, you're going to make a lot of people really fucking uncomfortable. But you also give other people the freedom to do the exact same. And I replayed that line in my mind like over and over and over again as I was going into this podcast because I felt like, there was a little bit of that imposter. I hadn't yet to really like prove myself, and not to anybody else, but even to like myself, because I was so early in my entrepreneurial journey. And I got a lot of pushback too, because I came from being a fitness model and from I had a bit of a different life. And now I'm going in this entrepreneurial journey and I'm a functional medicine dietitian and I'm building this business. And I got a lot of pushback from people at first because I hadn't yet built a lot of that credibility in the space. But it was like your words just mattered so much to me. And the funny thing, you guys have to know this, but I didn't even realize that was you when we actually officially met at Gabrielle's birthday party. And then it was after, like, we became friends. And I can't even remember the moment, but I put the two together and I'm like, holy shit, like Roxy changed my life before I even knew Roxy, which I got to know you in that episode. And it mattered so much to me. And I had no idea that as I was listening to that, like we were literally going to become best friends and be manifesting together and being traveling to Hawaii together and speaking together, doing events. This is our third podcast episode that we're doing together. Fourth?
Yeah. Yeah. This is the third. So we're obviously, for those we'll figure it out. But this one episode is going to go on your show, and it's also going to go on mine. So this is your third time on my show, and I've been on your show once.
Okay.
So,
man, you need to come on mine more. Well, I paused mine.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, when you are listening to this,
it's
no
back
longer
on.
paused.
Rachel's back on. No, that story is it's so sacred. It's so special. And to me, I don't believe that there's any accident when you meet anybody in life. I think there's, it comes from a very spiritual and deeper place. And that's just my belief on it. And so, when you and I met, we laugh about this because we're like, we don't remember what we talked about, but we just dropped in deep. And that's my favorite kind of connection. And it's not to say that all connections have to be that way, and certainly are going to be that way. Not even. Yeah. But when it does happen, I know that that means something. So already just from the kickoff with us, like there was so much meaning to the pull that we had towards each other. And then, and then what I love so much, and this is really, I think, just important, for those listening and watching, it's just, you really have to invest. You and I have been investing. I mean, if it matters to you.
Pals. Guys, walkie-talkie pals.
We are. We have we send each other solo-sodes, just as a concept. But whatever that looks like, it's just this idea that how do you grow any kind of relationship that matters to you? You have to invest. You want to be interested. You want to be curious. You want to, and for me, and this is something that really helped me feel closer to you, is I don't want the fucking highlight reel. Don't do that, because if you can't be all of you, and that means you're going to be vulnerable, then that's okay. But it won't allow us to really get close, and you did such a beautiful job of, just opening and allowing that space to be there for us, at hard times, you allowed me to be there for you. That, to me, I take that to my heart deeply. And I'm like, this is sacred, and so, when we're able to forge, it really becomes like a sisterhood. And that term can be so overused, to be honest. I think it's the sister.
Well, it became like a soul connection at that point. And I remember that moment in time because we were walkie-talkieing, voice memoing back and forth. And I remember, feeling so safe to share with you a lot of the things that I was walking through, and even a lot of my past that has shaped me and made me who I was. And I remember us voice memoing, and I'm bawling my eyes out as I'm sending you this voice memo. But those tears weren't from the things that had happened in my past. They came from just feeling so seen without any judgment, and just so fully accepted. And I was like, this is so healing in so many ways. And I've never had a friendship, a sisterhood like this. And I think so many of us, women, we have these sister traumas and things of growing up and, competition or whatever it is. And it was just this beautiful moment of wow, I can be fully all of me, and also show the darker parts of me, show some of the things that I've really walked through that I often just have to hold myself, and even how those come up and moments of my day-to-day life. And then for you to be able to receive that, and, in both ways, simultaneously, but we were voice memoing back and forth, and we're so connected at that point. And, you think about how many friendships and people, it's hanging out and getting together and having fun together. But, I don't care to have any other type of relationship in my life with where I'm at if they're not those type of connections. And I think once you have those soul level connections, you're able to go there with people, and you're like, this is so powerful and so healing in so many ways, and what it really does for the heart and the spirit and the soul. And you can't go back from that.
No.
Like you can't go back to surface level conversation, but you also have to be at that place yourself to be able to
be in alignment for that relationship. Yeah, because, and this is where I talk a lot about the difference between teammates and friendships. Friendships are important and they're beautiful and they're powerful and they're sacred. And yeah, I think there is a difference between teammates and friendships. And I know, you know, the if you could just have one teammate in your life, and I'm not even talking about your romantic partner, like, yes, hopefully that is the case, you know, you have that kind of exchange with your romantic partner. But I mean, outside of that, if you just have one teammate, and that to me is someone who wants you to fucking win and is in it with you the whole way through. Friction comes up, you don't run apart from each other. You run towards each other. You're okay with having moments of friction because you know that your foundation is so fucking strong that it's not going to tear you apart. If anything, it's probably going to, you know, help you get closer to each other, right? And you can't create these kind of exchanges and dynamics. It has to, I believe you do invest to, if you feel that potential is there, but it is like an inch by inch unfolding. But when it does lock in, it's the best fucking feeling. Cause like I'm so, and this is even with my friends. So it's not like, but I'm so fucking proud of all my friends and my teammates, right? Like, so just to make that clear. But just to focus on you, you know, I'm so proud of all that you are, not just, and I am very proud of all that you've created, which is so fucking phenomenal as a businesswoman, knowing your past too, you know, and just like the trials and the hardships that you know, came into this world with, which most people would not be able to get past, or to, you know, you have post-traumatic stress, and then you have post-traumatic growth, and you went the growth route, right? Who you are that's the piece that has my heart. So, and we talk about this a lot, right? Like it's the being and not just the doing.
Yeah.
And I love the fucking doing. I'm a fucking high performer. I'm here to crush it. And like, and we like being around that energy too.
Well, it's the essence, right? It's like being able to fully see somebody else's essence and who they are, and being able to genuinely want to see someone fucking win, right? It's like, even in this, like we're at my house right now for the Evolution Mastermind event, but it's like we both manifested this together, right? We were in Hawaii, and you know, you were talking about speaking, and I was talking about my event and everything, and you know, it was just like, hey, can I come speak at your event? And it's like, fuck yes, 100%. Also, let me see if I can help you do more of that. And it's like, like those type of
that exchange, you know, and I think it's a good place to bring this in. It's been so fun as your girl, the last even 6-7 months, we'll just, you know, create that time window. There's been a shift unfolding for you, which has been really, really special, beautiful, and powerful. And especially as your girl, to be alongside you during the process and support you and all the ways that I'm able to support you, you know, because I really stand with you and your evolution. And, you know, it's part of my work to support, like, this is a big part of my message. Do not suppress your authentic evolution. Like, that is a fast track to suffering, right? And so even if it doesn't make sense, even if you're going to fucking surprise people, switch things, whatever that looks like, if it's a heart calling, then you have to honor the call. And it's been so fun because you have been honoring the call and been making subtle but absolute different shifts in your business life and like just, you know, all of that, right? And so it's this fun way where one of the ways where I get to support you and cheer you on and witness you. The speaking thing is really funny because people, I'm a podcaster, right? This is my comfort zone, and I've expressed to you, like, the live stuff has been calling me, almost like nagging at me for like the last 2 years. You gotta get out and do more live, right? And I shared with you, and now sharing with everyone, like, it's not my comfort zone, for many reasons, some which may come out today, but like, I don't, I'm like, but fuck, man, I can't hit snooze on this calling. Like, no matter how many, or I can hit snooze, but it's not going away. Like, it keeps ringing, the alarm's going off. So I've made that clear, like, yeah, I gotta step into this, and you have been so supportive. Like, you're like, you're a fucking natural. Like, you're just, in your head a bit, and like, but this is, I'm sharing this because it's like real kind of behind the scenes of what it looks like when the teammates want each other to win. So we're in Hawaii together, having the best time, vacationing, like just revisiting home for me over there. And, you're sharing with me, you've created an incredible mastermind of women. Like, they're phenomenal women.
Phenomenal
truly.
women, yeah.
And I remember when you sketched I remember like the birth of
You're at the beginning of the manifestations of the evolution.
Yes. And you're telling me what, this event, when you go home, what it was going to be about, and it's authenticity, full self-expression. And I'm like, shit, this is my zone of genius. And I was like, wait, I should come speak at this. And I'm like, yeah, you should. And, it was so natural
but how cool is that too? It's like when like you're almost like manifesting with like your teammate, whoever it is in your life, your best friend, your teammate, your significant other. It's like when you know in your heart what that other person really desires for their life. Yeah. And it's like this genuine, honest, like, hey, I can help you, and I'm actually on the lookout for you. So like, you want to do this and see this, I'm going to be, as I'm living my life, on constant alert. So when I notice things that I can help bring back to you and vice versa, and not from a place of, so many people do it from like a desire or anything, but like, I genuinely want to fucking see you win. And I love winning with you and together. And it's like this building and manifestation that you guys you get to do, and it's powerful. And I just hope that in anybody's lifetime they get to experience a relationship, multiple relationships, but even if it's just a relationship where you really get to see somebody so fully, connect with them on a soulful level, and genuinely want to see each other really fucking win. Yeah. And to be able to support them in such a way of like, we got each other, and I'm going to help you with whatever you want. Like, I'm all in on you. Like, let's do this, whatever it is.
1,000%. That's the teammate. I mean, I love that. I'm all in on you. So even when we're not in the same city and room together, you don't forget about me. I'm like always in your conscious, and same in the reverse. Like, it's that lookout. It's like, I'm paying attention to your life, because your life matters to me. Your goals matter to me. What you desire for your life matters to me too. And that is so special. And again, not necessarily very common. What do you think gets in the way? And I know it's like never going to be one thing, but what are some of the things that can get in the way of someone being able to call in friendships like this, like within their own self?
Yeah, I think, at least I can only speak for me, in my life, I had to get to the point where I had enough self-love for myself and genuineness of wanting to see myself win, and feeling like I didn't need to try to prove myself to anybody, but talking about that authenticity piece, but like a genuine self-love and empathy. It's like what we talked about even off air of this. I was like, wow, the compliments that I've gotten at this entire mastermind event, it's been like, there's so much empathy that extends and radiates from you with all of these women and how you're speaking to them. There's like a softness. And you said to me last evening, you were like, yeah, because you've been able to cultivate that empathy with yourself. And I was like, fuck yeah. That's exactly what it is. And I think in order for me to call in these type of soulful, loving relationships that, we put the ego aside, and not saying there's not ever things, but like to really have that type of depth in a relationship, like I had to get to the point in my own life where I had that first and foremost with myself, because now that I can fully see my authenticity and my heart and my own essence, which is beautiful and powerful and all of love, and and I can feel that and just be like, wow, Rachel, and I mean this, like, you're beautiful. Like, and feel that, not from like a cocky or any kind of way, but like, your heart is so beautiful. I can now see that in other people. I can see other people's essence. I can see their heart in them. I can see their essence. But when I didn't have that for myself, I wasn't able to fully see that in others. And so I think that's where, you and I connected, and, I've been on my own journey, and the relationship was able to grow so deeply based off of that. You have such a beautiful amount of self-love, self-trust, authenticity in everything that you do, which is why so many women are drawn to you. It's why all your content goes viral, because they're like, holy fuck, this woman, when she speaks with so much heart that comes from everything that she says, and it speaks to their heart. But I think that was truly, where I also had to get to be able to cultivate this kind of relationships. And it's like, we have this relationship because you're there and I'm there, and I can still hold space for other women in that. But for other women, maybe who aren't there fully yet, I can hold space for them. But it may not be the same depth of the relationship, because relationships have to be an equal exchange as well too.
There has to be that alignment where, that nourishment, just there's more harmony in that flow with each other. I mean, I think that's such a beautiful, powerful, and just very honest answer. Like, I think that it really, and you hear these statements of, you have to love yourself first before you call in the love. And it sounds so cliche and kind of overused, but it really is a truth, because a lot of what we are experiencing in life is the result of the inner relationship that we have with ourselves. And that's why, I feel so called in my life to share, hey, let's work on the inner, because the inner shapes the outer. And in my life and in my journey, that evolution of the relationship that I've had with myself is, first of all, undeniable in terms of how impactful and powerful it actually is to, just to be functioning in real partnership with yourself. It doesn't mean you've got everything figured out, everything's perfect, you don't have hard days, you don't have, you're omitted from challenges. No, it doesn't mean you don't have any insecurities or, patterns, programs can't find their way into your, day-to-day life. And it doesn't mean any of that. It just means like, hey, you know what? When it's time to go to battle, you're not going into battle, first of all, towards yourself. Like, you're not fighting yourself, right? You're going into battle with yourself. There's no I in here. There's a we in here. But to go from the I to the we is a journey. And when you do that, and empathy is a huge component to that, because you have to be able to accept yourself, to hold space for your own self, especially in the hard moments, to then be able to move into that bond with yourself.
And empathy doesn't mean weak either. It's not giving yourself excuses. It's being able to hold the things that really come up and be able to love yourself through them, as those things come up, but also have enough self-love to be radically honest with yourself about even the hard things. And just like you said, be able to say, hey, we fucking got this and we're going to do this, even though this is hard, even though this is scary, even though this brings up so much of your stuff of maybe not enough, unworthiness. So the empathy piece is I can hold all of that is coming up with so much love for myself of like, I know you feel this way. I know this is coming up and I love you so much. And we're still going to fucking move.
Yeah.
We're still going to move forward. And it's this like beautiful dance of like self-love, empathy, and doing often what's the really hard thing.
Yeah.
That's the scary, unsafe thing that makes us get out of our box and our comfortability and lean into the things that actually make us grow, and also the things that we feel so called to do from a heart place.
Yeah.
And
no, for sure. It's like, and also I just to kind of tease that out a little bit more. I mean, sometimes some of the hardest thing to do is it's just to face yourself, especially in a moment, whether it's, you're just facing something hard, something external coming at you. Maybe it's a replay of something from the past, maybe whatever it is, but maybe it's, most people often would rather go into a state of avoidance. I don't want to deal with this right now, but this is you. So every time you say, I don't want to deal with this, whatever, even if it's a conflict of, it's still you, like you're involved with it. So I say, better to go inward towards yourself. Stop running from yourself, run towards yourself. When you can start doing that, because you're in you until you're out of here. So how long are you going to keep running from yourself? And so that the empathy piece, which is really, to me, it's very much connected with compassion, which I think compassion is like a high performance tool, or I like to frame it that way, just for those who think that compassion is soft. I'm like, no, fuck that. It's actually not, because it's much easier to be an asshole to yourself than and run from yourself than it is to be able to hold space for yourself in those moments, especially when shit just doesn't feel good. You don't want to face it. But when you can start to accept those moments, and especially accept yourself in those moments, this is where shit starts to change little by little by little.
Yeah. I think too why old Rachel and a lot of people go away from themselves in those moments is also too because of that inner dialogue doesn't come from a place of empathy or curiosity and really trying to understand and learn, but more from a place of shame and judgment, you know, and kind of going back to my inner dialogue of what it used to be. I've gone through such an incredible healing journey and evolution. I've talked about being bullied and growing up, and my inner dialogue used to be really fucking mean. Like it was mean, of like the conversations and the things that I would say to myself consciously and unconsciously on a deeper level, and the amount of shame that would be built into things like if I messed up or I wasn't good enough. And it was that was really the problem. And I think when people experience that's their relationship with their self though, right? It's like, what is the relationship with self? That is how that's my we. Like we're like bullying ourselves.
Yep. Mental
internally,
bullying.
mental bullying. And so it makes sense why you'd want to run away and suppress all of those things inside of you and not want to face it, because you're mean to yourself. You're a bully. And what do we do with bullies? We run away. We hide from them. And that's where, that empathy is such a powerful tool, because can you really say, hey, even if you fucking messed up, but like, hey, I get it. And I know what this is. And you're feeling all of these things, whether it's inadequacy, unworthiness, or maybe you made a promise to yourself and you broke it, whatever it may be, but being able to hold that with empathy of the part of you that maybe didn't show up the way that you wanted to in that moment, with love, with also curiosity though, and understanding. So then you can take that and say, okay, how do I want to show up here next time? And I think that's where the healing and the self-growth, and at least I know that's what I've had to do with myself over and over and over again.
When did you realize that you were being mean to yourself? If you're able to capture it, because the reason why I say that is like some people, like you said, conscious and subconscious, a lot of times, especially if it's just the default setting, a lot of people are not aware of it. It's just like how you talk to yourself.
Yeah.
So can you think about a time when it started to like really stand out to you? Wait a second. I'm beating myself up here.
It's hard. There's like moments of when I was a teenager, then in my early adult years. But I think as I leaned into doing a lot of the inner work myself, which really started about age 25 for me, because that was when I went through a massive breakup and I was like, I'm going to go into entrepreneurship, and I had all of my health issues. So it was like, okay, all of these things are happening in my life. Why are all these things happening? And as I started to want to create a new life for myself, like I had to go inward and I had to look at the relationship that I had with myself, the views that I had of myself. And it's like, once I started to actually pay attention to some of those conversations, it's like, oh man. And it's not like it's that all the time. And I'm sure people like, are like, there's times where your self-talk is incredible. But is it only incredible when you're being perfect? When you're living up to the standard that you feel like you should be at? When you're only hitting these things, are you only nice to yourself in that? It's like that parent who's like, all right, if you hit everything I want you to do, then I'll give you love. But where is that love actually coming from, right? Mm-hmm. Where is that love actually coming from? It's not coming from a place of, I just love you. It's coming from a place of, if you achieve X, Y, and Z, if you live up to my standard of being good enough, then you are worthy of love. And you can see how, like, I'm getting chills as I'm saying that, like how we continue to repeat the cycle, which is usually a cycle of what we were brought up in. I was brought up in a family where, I was neglected a lot as a kid, and I only really got attention through achievement, gymnastics and dance and these things. So it makes sense where perfectionism and things like that really came into the scene. So it's like, can you only give yourself love in those moments? But as soon as, guess what? You're not measuring up to that standard you think you should be. When you quote unquote mess up, or you think you're not good enough by whose standard, by your own standard, which is usually a really high fucking bar, then you're mean to yourself. Then you turn into the bully. Now you start shaming yourself, right?
Yeah, so I think that's a very common experience for a lot of people. And you're saying all that, and I'm thinking to myself, I think there's a space now for the emergence of this. It's not an idea, it's a reality that you could be a bad motherfucker. High standards. I got him. I'm not coming down off him. And every day show up, do your best, whatever your best looks like in that day, because we're not talking about peak performance, optimal performance.
Not like perfectionism. What do you have that's your best that day?
In that moment. Yeah, exactly. And, every day you're going to get up, you're going to strive, whatever your best is that day. And, hopefully more days than not, you're hanging in the zone, right? But when you're not, or when shit comes up, or when whatever, anything that's like kind of lower frequency, hard and all of that, there is this space where you can console yourself, hold compassion for yourself, learn so that you can grow, figure shit out without beating yourself up. See, because what I really think I see more of is like, it's two separate lanes. You're either like a drill sergeant with yourself, because if you're not that, then how are you going to get better? No excuses. Don't fucking do it. Or it's this ultra softness that then doesn't have that level of fierceness. It's almost like, you
make excuses for everything. Oh, that was fine. And that was fine. And that was fine. And it's like, no. Accountable. And this is why one of my core values is integrity.
Integrity encompasses so much, so many incredible attributes, one of which is respect. And respect is a really powerful, I mean, that just like can be its own series of podcast episodes, just because of how important self-respect is, and what actual self-respect, not coming from a place of ego and judgment, that's not even real, right? But coming from a place of love, right? And also not coming from a place of, oh, I respect myself because, I've hit all these marks on this person, that person. No, I respect first and foremost, like who I am, not what I do as a human, my human beingness, my heart, how I show up to the world, how I meet people in life, right? Like I respect myself for that. There's the list is so long when we talk about respect, but I believe that the respect piece is actually what helps the accountability factor be pretty, like, very strong, right? But integrity is leading that way. My integrity it supports my self-respect in a way where, hey, I'm not going to fucking lie to myself. If I messed up, I'm going to own it. However, I am not going to beat myself up, which doesn't mean I'm not going to evaluate. I'm not going to question. I'm not going to analyze. I'm not going to go, hey, Rox, can't do that anymore. Whatever I need to say, but it's never coming from this place where I'm going to disrespect myself. If anything, I'm going to hold more respect for myself just because I'm able to go, no, this didn't work.
Yeah.
But let's keep going,
And I know for me, like the curiosity piece is like incredibly important. Not only I'm just curious about everything, root cause and all of that. But when I'm like, let's say I didn't show up the way I wanted to, I didn't hit something, which we're human, we're going to, right? When I can come from a place of curiosity, I may inquire and ask myself, like, all right, what came up for me or my view of myself in that moment that led me to not want to show up and maybe the way that I did. And, maybe an example of this would be something off the top of my head, like public speaking, right? And maybe I wanted in my standard to show up, fully, just flowy and energetic. But for whatever reason, I started to get like super nervous and, I started to kind of stumble on my words. And this is a real life experience. I used to really struggle a lot with speaking and all of that, where after old Rachel would beat myself up for that. Why? Because my standard was, hey, we needed to show up this way to be good enough. And hey, you also know that you can show up. You've shown up like this before. But why in this instance, for whatever reason, did you show up like this? You messed up. You didn't do this. And it's like the berating. But instead, what if, and what I can now do for myself with so much empathy is like, hey, Rach, what came up for you there? What came up for you there? What was the view of self? What was the story? What was the belief? And then I started to like peel it back a little bit of like, oh, came up for me was that, that I didn't feel fully safe in that room that I was in. I felt a bit of some judgment from other people, or I felt like I wasn't good enough to be up on that stage. And so even though I felt totally fine in other speaking environments, for whatever reason, in this one, I was comparing myself a bit more and I wasn't aware of it in the moment, but now I'm like peeling it back a bit. And I come from this place of curiosity. And in that, by like inquiring, I'm like, oh, Rach, I'm able to meet myself with empathy of like, why did I show up and not hit that standard, not beat myself up? Because now I'm just keeping that cycle going by like, hey, this is what was coming up. There was a view of myself in that moment, whether it was not good enough or I don't deserve to be up there, which created a view of myself that created this belief in the moment. And this is all happening on such a subconscious level. I've just done this so often. But okay, that then created the nerves which then I showed up in not how I know that I'm able to fully show up, but that's like what took place. And I go in this curiosity place, and then I'm like, oh, wow, Rach. And I can hold like this loving space for myself, because for most of us, we're not trying to, right? We're not, no one's ever like, hey, I said, I wanted to hit X, Y, and Z or whatever goal, and then intentionally like, I'm not going to do it. Usually there's something in us that's really being hit on in that moment. Right. And so when we beat ourselves up, we just keep that cycle going. But for me, when I get curious, I can meet whatever was there. I can meet little Rachel. I can give her what she needs. And that lesson now I get to take with me for the next time. And so if I notice that feeling coming up again, I'm like, oh, hey, Rach, remember, this is what this is. And I'm like, oh yeah. And like, it's like, once you see it, you create this disattachment from it. And in the process, you're able to then like bring yourself back into it and show up and actually choose how you want to. And that's where, like, for me, that curiosity is like the most powerful tool ever.
It really, I love it. I don't remember how many years ago, I was journaling in an airport. I find myself there a lot. And I remember I got to this, whatever I was writing about, but I got to this very profound, for me, it was very profound. It was this statement of, you cannot be learning and judging at the same time. You cannot be learning and judging at the same time. So we hear this statement of like, be a student of life, that for sure. And I say, be a student of self, because self is creating life. So you got to take off, I always say, take off the judgment lens, the critical, lens, and put on the student lens so that your curiosity can lead you. It's so powerful and beautiful what you shared. And I really hope that whoever needs to rewind that part and take it back in, they do, because just to dissect it a little bit, what you did was a lot of things, actually, when you're in those moments, like that whole storyline was such a great example. One thing I want to point out that you did, though, is you allowed yourself to keep space between you and the experience so that you didn't become that experience. That experience didn't find its way into your self-identity, where now you're shaming yourself, you're looking down on yourself. Those simple but very profound questions allowed that space to be there so that Rachel can be held with love and respect. And the experience still happened, but now you're actually living. And I believe this is what we're here to do. Every experience is material for us to get to know more about who we truly are. And that is that's one of the most important ways that we can do that, is lead with curiosity. Because otherwise you just become every experience. And a lot of times it's not going to be great, and where does that lead you inside?
Yeah, it's like that team. Like, that's how it felt like in the moment. It was like embracing this team mentality of like, oh, Rach, like, this is what is coming up for you. Like, I get it. And this is where this is coming from. And being able to then, meet myself with so much love in that moment, and then carry that forward into the next experience where there could be a potential of something similar happening, but being able to now hold space for what was there previously and knowing what is there. And then I have actually a space from it in that next experience where it doesn't overtake me, maybe like it did before. I'm able to have that awareness in it. And something I was thinking about of what you were talking about earlier with the respect piece. I remember I think you said it on the last podcast you came on with me, and I don't remember the context or the question leading up to it, but it was something around, because I love myself too much not to.
Yeah. That's like where, I mean, honestly, I can put so much in front of that statement. What immediately comes to mind, though, and this is before, I launched the podcast, I think a lot of times people like to ask me questions, whether it's pertaining to health, fitness, body, like anything really. What fascinates so many is my consistency, right? Because that's usually a big issue with, creating new habits and things. And when people ask, like, how do you have this discipline? How do you stay so consistent? And my honest and very simple answer was because I love myself too much not to.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the truth. But as I would later, and then, start the podcast and mentoring women and, all the things, I started to think deeper about that. And I go, okay, they're asking me because they're searching for clues. And that answer is almost too advanced for most people who you're not there yet, even though it's the truth and it's where I want you to go and where you need to go to ultimately get to that place. There's levels to this game.
Yeah.
And
you want to know why that's so powerful? I just have to say this.
Yeah.
Is because that's actually not the norm. People are like, why are you pushing so hard? Why are you so disciplined? Most people, it comes from the opposite place. It comes from, I don't think I'm good enough. So I'm pushing myself. I have this discipline so that when I reach this level, then I'll be good enough. And then I'll be worthy. And then, I'll be able to love myself. Right. And I think what's so powerful about that statement that you say that I think lands for so many women is you're like, no, the reason why I'm doing this is because I love myself too much not to.
Yeah. Thank you for pointing that out. Cause see, I didn't even think of it in that moment in that way, but you're right. It's usually, that it's the not enoughness that is driving someone to want to create, whatever that experience is. And look, I'm in my 40s. I've been writing my whole life. So what's cool is that I have all this record of my evolution. And I always kind of point out when I get to, if I'm in a moment of conversation like this, it's my 20s that really were, they were so gnarly. I mean,
oh yeah. I'm looking at mine. Now that those are 2 years behind
inner
me.
world, because you're like, especially, listen, like I'm an underdog, I'm a maverick. I decided like it's my life, my terms. I'm not following some fucking template of what society thinks my life should be like, or anybody actually. Which means that when you're carving your own path from your heart, your authentic self, like you're set up for a lot of fucking challenges, all worth it, but still not easy. And so, there were certainly, many pages in many journals throughout my 20s where, it wasn't like, they weren't love letters to myself all the time. It was like, shit, why can't I figure this out? Like what, it was that kind of tone.
Yeah.
It was very much alive in these parts of these years of my life.
I think people don't talk about enough that your 20s are really fucking hard. Your 20s
Well, no, listen, of course not. We have awards that by 30, like what is it, 30 under 30?
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, you're the shit because you like, look at the car, you're the empire. And it's like, man, get the fuck out of here. Sorry, full respect. You did a lot out here and that could be a really great thing. Like, let's just say it's really in service of the world. So I am not trying to put down anyone's anything actually, but I just feel like that is one representation of a lot more of what we've all been groomed into, which is all this external validation, shallowness, templated fucking lives of like, this is what it looks like to be successful. And it gets to me because what happens in my work, what I see, especially working with women, is that fucks people up. That's what gets in the way of you actually knowing who you truly are and then being able to step into, if you don't know who you truly are, first of all, you can't truly love yourself. So all this conversation about, self-love, forget it. If you don't actually have, you don't have to have it all figured out. But if you don't even have like just some aspects of yourself that you can connect with, that you understand, it's going to be really fucking hard to cultivate all this magical self-love.
Yeah.
And when everything is telling you that your worthiness, your validation, your credibility is all out here and not in here. It's what you're doing. It's not the being that you are. that sets you up for all of that shit. You know, like to create such a profound disconnect with you, with the we that I'm talking about. You know, this weekend together has been, I have chills. Full body chills. When Rox gets full body chills, it's like some shit. It means something. But this weekend has been so magical. It doesn't surprise me for a lot of reasons. But to have witnessed the incredible women that you've brought together who, you know, by the way, for those, like I talked about, the speaking uncomfortable, like it was, I mean, I just channel when I speak, and the space was there for me to do it, and it was beautiful and powerful. So happy ending to the story, in case anybody's wondering. But what was so special, a lot of things, but just to witness women be so open and to really start to connect more deeper with this, my authentic self, my true essence, my heart, the beingness, not just the doing, you know, especially because they're all
so
like high
uncommon
achievers.
in like a business mastermind too.
Exactly.
It's so uncommon. Everything is so connected to, you know, build this funnel, this marketing, and do this with your social media and how to grow more followers. And it's like nobody's actually talking about the heart piece and how can you bring more of you in the work that you do? How can you bring more of your essence, what makes you you? And just like I said to the girls this weekend, it's like any amount of success that you achieve that doesn't come from you being fully all of you, bringing all of you, your weird, your goofy self, just your full essence, is actually not success, it's failure. And we even talked about how, you know, why is it that so many people get to this amount of success? They make the $1 million, they have multiple $1 million, they have the businesses, and they find themselves so depressed and suicidal.
Yeah. They're empty.
They're empty.
They're disconnected from self, from heart. They've done an excellent job of doing all this stuff that says, you do this, you've made it, you're successful. But more often than not, how they were able to do that, I don't even want to say how they were able to do that. The journey of their doing, they had to abandon their being, their authentic being, actually, probably at several points, right? So like if their heart wanted, go for it. What were you going to say?
You had me think of something.
Yeah.
You know, because I've been a part of so many different business masterminds, and one of the conversations that many people say is they're like, there's a template to success. There's this template to success. You just have to follow.
And I'm like the anti-template bitch. That's funny. I didn't
but
even know that.
But that is something, because they're like, success isn't hard. There's a template. And, you know, and I hear what they're trying to say. So it's like, you do X, Y, and Z. And this is why so many people on the outside can achieve what society deems as success and internally feel so empty. But it's also like, what are we defining as the template of success? And where I'm at in my life is that I don't want to create anything that doesn't come from this place of full authenticity in all of myself. And, you know, I used to feel like when I will be fully authentically myself, you know, I'll be more accepted or more loved. And like, I struggled with that myself. And I shared even this weekend, I was like, I wrote on my whiteboard of like, you know, one of my goals was, because I learned like the power of authenticity leaning in that. And it was to be fully accepted by my authentic self. And then, you know, a week later, I went back and I wrote by me. And I think so often we believe that, you know, or how I want to say this is, I think sometimes like we don't realize that in the process of being so fully authentically ourselves, it's actually probably going to push a lot of people away.
Yeah.
It's probably actually going to make a lot of people uncomfortable. There probably will be people who don't like you, who don't resonate with you. You're probably going to piss a lot of people off.
Yep.
But the people who resonate with you, the people who see you, you will know those are really your people. And I don't want anything that isn't coming from that place of me being fully all of me, because anything else isn't really success at the end.
No, you're right. Exactly. You can't, it's really simple. It sounds deep. I mean, it is, but if you actually just want to keep it super simple, how could you, if we were to say a relationship, a friendship, like how could you have some really honest connection with someone when you're not showing up as the all of you, your most honest self? How do you forge that relationship? You can't, because there's a part of you that's hidden. There's a costume, maybe a mask, whatever it is. So it just doesn't make sense. So even in terms of business, if you're deviating from your authenticity to generate some kind of, I'll give an example. Let's just say it's like a brand, that cool brand, whatever, but like parts of the brands,
what
like
you think people want. And that's like also too, what's so common in a lot of these businesses, like, what do the people want? Give them what they want. And guess what you do? You keep giving people what you think they want. And this person wants this and this person wants this. And then who is this really for? It's for everybody except not what truly just wants to come out of you and your heart. And I love what you said this weekend, where you're like, okay, yes, I'm doing this for everybody, but most importantly, I'm doing this for me. Yeah. Like, I'm doing this for me over, like, yes, if it helps other people, it changes their life, but I'm creating so much from my heart about the things that I love, that make me feel alive, that want to pour out of me. And I'm bringing that to the world. Yeah. And what is taught is so much in the reverse. It's like, what is gonna get the most likes? What's gonna resonate? What do your followers and people want to actually hear? Yeah. Now, craft your content towards that. And then I think this is the trap that people get in, because years go by and guess what? People like it. They do like it. Yeah. So guess what? The success comes, the likes come, the followers come, and they build and they build and they build. And then they get to this point where they're like, I feel so empty. Like, I got chills saying that, because it's like, you get to the point where, like, I'm so empty. What have I built? Because none of this is actually what I believe in or what I want to talk about. And maybe there's things that are like very factual or truth, but you're like, this isn't what I want to do. I'm not talking about the things that make me feel alive. And this is why you're burnt out all the time. Yeah. This is why you're exhausted. And you're like, oh, I just need a break from my work. I'm tired. It's like, when you're speaking about the things that you love and you're so passionate about and that make you come alive, it actually gives you energy in so many ways. And this is also too where my brand, it's like, it looks so different. Like, if you were to go look at my brand 2 months ago versus like, 6 months ago versus a year ago, it's like, there's a whole evolution because I'm evolving.
Well, it's like you so are. And it's, again, it fills me up just to see it all coming together and like just being able to cheer you on and support you however I can. It's very powerful. I think, the experience where you're saying like, oh, people just build, what do you like? What's going to work? The algorithm, all the things. You know what? That's a skill. Like, to know how to do that and do it well. Great. It's a skill. There's no soul.
The template.
There's no soul. I want to put this out there that actually you can have both, that you're doing it. It's a great example, actually. It's like the ability to infuse your heart and your soul into your everything, really, right? And obviously people's business and work life, like, things are going to look different. But the idea here is, wherever you, first and foremost, let me just say this, authenticity it's a superpower. It has to lead the way. Even if it makes you uncomfortable, even if you're scared, even if you might lose, even if you're going to get rejected, even if, oh God, I have to say, I'll buy to this money because, because every time you don't accommodate the things that that deviate, help take you out of your authentic self, you forge a stronger bond with your true self. And so when you think about the value of self-trust, self-confidence, and self-love, I mean, I think it's priceless, these attributes and what they do for you in your life. And that, by not abandoning and betraying yourself, is what helps you to strengthen these attributes that will take care of you in endless ways for the rest of your life. I think it's so important. And that's why I think this mastermind too that you've crafted and specifically, again, like, not just, business mastermind. It's like business. I always say your relationships, your business, your anything, your material objects, like those things don't make you who you are. You're making those things, right? Who is that person, right? So this weekend specifically, being about full self-expression, authenticity, being more heart-centric in every aspect of your life, it does allow an individual to get to know, love, and trust and respect their authentic self, to create that safety within themselves so that they can lead with this, what I call superpower, which is their authentic self, and create a life that they fucking really want to live, like their life. Like, whose life are you really living? Stop, everyone, think about it. I'm not calling you out. Everything is with empathy, love, compassion, but also honesty. Whose life are you living right now? Is it really yours? Or is it the idea of what you should be living? Or
and two, who are you taking advice from? Like, one good piece of advice that I got is the person, it's funny, advice, but the person you're taking advice from, do they have the life that you would actually truly want? I'm not saying you have to want like all the intricacies and all of that. But I think what was so cool, and I can speak for myself and I feel like I can speak for you, but, I think we can both say, like, we love our life. Like, we love our life. We love the work that we do. Yeah. We have an incredible relationship with ourselves that hasn't always been there. Speaking for me, hasn't always been there, but it's been cultivated. The relationships we have, the friendships that we have, it's like, I can look at my life and say, I genuinely am in love with my life. And I couldn't have said that 5 years ago. I couldn't have even said that maybe 2 years ago, a year ago. Yeah. But it's like, and I think that's what's so powerful too, in like getting in a mastermind and getting in a room. It's like, we're not just talking about like, here's how you grow a business, because you can go to these other mastermind events and there's a lot of templates and a lot of formulas you can do to create business success. What you and I care about are you living an authentic life? Are you living the life you want to live? Do you love the life that you live? Yeah. You said something one time and you're like, my life, or how did you say it? My life doesn't fit into my business. My business fits into my life, and I love my life. And this was before, I had actually made some of my own shifts in my business. And I was like, I love that. Yeah. I love that so much, because I think it's so often the reverse. It is, I'm fitting my life into my business. And then even we spend so much of our life in our business. That's the truth of it. So it's like, if you're not doing what you love and you're not also able to bring your authenticity and your expression in the work that you do, it's like you're spending a good chunk of your life. Yeah.
I think it's so important to insert this part. You're not lucky, and neither am I.
No.
You fucking did your shit, and I'm doing mine. Like, I didn't get here because it was like some lucky, no. And I say that just because everyone is where they're at, and with respect to where anybody's at. The reason I felt compelled to say that in that moment is because if any limiting beliefs are starting to circulate in the mindsets,
well, it's easy for them or this, and
that's
it's
what
like,
I'm
girl,
saying. And I'm
look at where my life was just a few years ago. Shoot, the shit I went through even a few months ago, which my life was still good, but like I went through a lot of my own internal shit.
Yeah.
You know?
But you keep giving yourself permission to, first of all, be human, to just like, okay, and the empathy gets stronger and deeper. And you give yourself permission to grow. You give yourself permission to not have to be perfect. And this is like, I think it's like you're refining this part, by the way, myself too. Like, it's not like, oh, it's just been, I came out of the womb with this self bond that like, no,
like you did.
I will say this because I have to, because it's like, if this can support somebody, what has helped me generate this bond that I have with myself that I'm always speaking about, with hopes that it impacts those who pay attention to what I'm saying so that they can forge a bond with themselves in the same way, where they love, trust, know, and respect themselves. This really started because I've been writing for most of my life. And by the way, I didn't start writing as like, oh, I'm going to write a story. It was like, no, I just opened my diary. I've been a diarist. And what that has done for me is it has put me constantly in a conversation with myself. Now, like I was saying earlier, sometimes those conversations, I look back in those journals, I'm like, is that you? Damn, you were so mean to yourself in that. But I can zoom out and see what was happening in my life and be like, oh God, I totally get it. And, you know, but it's just the practice, the ritual of getting comfortable to be in this space with yourself where you can share whatever it is that you feel compelled to share. That has made the biggest difference in my ability to, like, in my journey of forging this relationship with myself. And I like to share that because if I could just get anyone who's listening who doesn't already have a practice of just whatever you want to call it, journaling, diarying, notebooking, I don't care about what you want to call it, but just creating a practice where you can just open that thing, roll ink, that's my language around it, and just get into conversation with yourself. Hear yourself, feel yourself, get clear on your thoughts. This will start to help you, do that. It's like, it's a form of how you actually expand self-awareness. Meditation certainly does. But otherwise, how are you breaking up your thoughts, your emotions, your experiences?
Well, I think it takes it almost like, because you're in your head, right? And you're having this dialogue, it brings it out and it gives you something to actually like observe and look at.
Yeah, you have record, you have data. And whether you go back to every journal, I don't, I don't even know how many journals I have at this point. It's pretty crazy and very special. But there's something about it going from, this is why it's like therapeutic. It's not just a spiritual practice, and yet it is very spiritual. And I want to say that and make that comfortable too. There's nothing wrong with that. It's ultimately a means to help you get to know yourself, get to understand yourself, and hopefully, and I think that if you continue on, it can help you to learn how to love yourself, absolute self-love, not conditional self-love, but absolute self-love. And that makes, it always comes back to self-love, everything, I believe, in life. You started with that.
Yeah. I thought of a bit earlier as you were talking about, the love piece and the journaling and like being in love with your life and me being in love with my life and where we're at, but it hasn't always been that way. It's interesting of where I'm at now and the conversations I now get to have with myself. Like a lot of the questions that I've been asking myself on a daily basis have been more so, how good can you let yourself feel?
Yeah.
How good can you let yourself feel?
Yep.
What would that feel like? Can you truly just feel really good today? And that comes from such a place of self-love. But I also couldn't ask that question if it wasn't for all of those following steps.
Yeah.
that I had to take,
Right.
to be like, can you let yourself just fully feel good and be grateful and be in all of your life? Because I also think sometimes like we get there and we miss out on, people talk about gratitude, but also like, can I just let myself feel so good?
Yeah.
And it's like this simple question, but it's been such a game changer for me every single day.
I love that question. I think it's powerful. And I just love questions. Like, questions are not the enemy. They are your friend. It's just like how you're framing the question, right? Are you interrogating yourself or are you leading with curiosity? Because you're really trying to understand this self being that you are, right? It's so, it's low hanging fruit, man. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to buy anything. You just have to be willing to say, hey, you know what? I'm worth this 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever it needs to be or can be for you, to just sit with myself and just kind of go on a journey and ask myself some questions that may help me understand more about, what's happening in this inner world that I'm living. And again, the curiosity piece is huge because otherwise it's very easy to land in a place of where you're criticizing yourself, you're judging yourself, your insecurities are leading you and all of that. And it's not the truth. That's one of the greatest things as well. I think that writing also, it helps to get to your truth. It helps you get to your truth. You might be, having some narrative that's making you feel really insecure about an experience, right? And you don't have to write, but again, the writing does help versus just like, being in your head about it. Open your journal, ask yourself questions. Okay, you start going just through a list of just simple questions like, do I really think that this person thinks this about me? Do I really think? And you have to, sit with it. Probably not. I'm just probably, okay, why could that be? Where is this coming from? Like, why am I projecting this insecurity on this? And so anyways, you go
Start
down
peeling
this,
it back. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you get to, so one of my affirmations that I have used for a long time that just, I don't remember where it came in my writing one day, but if I ever feel, and I do at times where there's a narrative that's going on and, it's disturbing my inner harmony, which is very present. And it's like the, my kind of baseline state. I ask myself, I'll do this inner work, this self-inquiry work. And, the affirmation. This is how I get to, okay, hold on. The affirmation, they're really connected, but the affirmation is the truth in me knows. The inquiry work has helped me to get to that place where I can say that with confidence.
Yeah.
The truth in me knows. And that settles it for me in that moment when it's like, it's running around, like people who can't see, it's like my head, and then hand on my heart. And I'm like, the truth in me knows. And my shoulders drop, my nervous system, like everything just comes down because it's like, yeah, fuck yeah, it does know. I know.
Yeah, I think it brings us back to just that core authenticity and also like kind of revealing a little bit of like the stories that are running the show because we always are creating all these stories on like why everything's happening.
Yeah.
I also love journaling for manifesting. I also manifest all of my dreams.
Next, like
that was literally what I was about to ask you that. I see we're manifesting that question. I'm like, what are we manifesting?
Oh my goodness.
What should we manifest next?
Live podcast.
Live podcast.
Live podcast.
Another event. Another
kick-ass, heart-centric.
That's so amazing.
Like, just come as you are.
The whole house was vibrating.
The whole, girl, like, literally. Chandler, don't you agree? That from space...
It was like vibrating, the energy
space,
in there.
I swear if you were looking down at the house, it was like, aura lights, just because everyone felt safe and you felt that. So everyone was just engaged with each other and it was just really, it was really beautiful. And I think, and again, mad props to you, girl, for cultivating it and for literally like having the wherewithal to know how important this is actually. Like, yes, the business stuff, and you've been tactical with the girls and like did a lot of business things, but this piece, I would say is it. I don't know, man. I'm biased.
It's like all of the other things can't work without that core piece. It's like, because you can try to build, it's like trying to build on like sand, like no foundation at all. So like you can build and maybe you'll get a little bit of the way there, but all of this stuff is going to eventually come up.
Yeah.
And like we said, maybe you are successful, but are you successful? No, you're not successful. So you'll build, or you'll get stuck and you won't even be able to move forward.
Yeah.
Because all of this will come up. So it's like, this has to be the core foundation for you then to build everything else upon, in my opinion. So I'm excited to manifest with you more.
Me too. I know. I'm like, what's our next adventure? Okay, so you heard it, people. We're going to do a live podcast.
Live podcast. Yeah, we're manifesting on air.
We are manifesting on
live
air.
Podcasts
with matcha.
It's happening.
It's happening.
Cheers.
To all my tender savages, to all you self-lovers, to all you magnetic badasses who are showing up every day authentically, courageously, who refuse to play small, I'm so excited to introduce our new lifestyle brand, La Rowan Paw, because we designed it just for you. Who's we? We is my work wife / wing woman / badass graphic artist, Paulina Stewart. Every design is a culmination of deep intention, love, fire, magic, heart, and soul brought to life through my writing and Paulina's graphic work. Because we are so intentional about every single statement, every design, we only drop one design a month. We want you to live it. We want you to feel the essence and the frequency of every design because they are so powerful, like you. So check it out, larowanpaw.com. It's in the show notes. The new drop is so sick, and I cannot wait to see all of you wearing it. You get a variety of products to choose from in each drop. So wear it on your head, hat. You can get socks. You can wear a hoodie. You can hang it on your wall. Whatever you end up doing, please do let us know by sharing it on your socials and your stories. Tag at Roxy Look, tag La Rowan Paw, and we will reshare the powerful, magnetic, badass beauty that you are. larowanpaw.com.